Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 669 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our ninth book just came out. It's called From Letters to Leaders, The Legacy of Service. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, there are so many fraternities and sororities that are working to end cancer in some way. Sigma Chi raises money for the Huntsman Cancer Foundation. The fraternity and sorority community at Penn State are committed to helping conquer childhood cancer with their Thon program. Their mission is to provide financial support to Four Diamonds so children can receive world-class care, ensuring funding for critical research, and also providing emotional support to the families, all in the pursuit of a cure. So get involved. Let's share that final victory to end cancer for everyone. And today we are going to talk about a story that impacted one particular family that hopefully will get your chapter involved in this fight. Cindy Eich is the managing broker of Remax Suburban in Arlington Heights, Illinois. A leader in real estate and small business, she serves on the National Small Business Leadership Team and chairs the Kendall Nicole Eich Foundation, assisting brain cancer patients and their families. Above all, Cindy is a devoted wife, mom, grandmother, and a grieving mom whose personal journey inspired her best-selling book. It's called Love Goes Further. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Mike. I am so grateful to be here.
Yes, it is an honor to have you on the show, and I really wanted to share your story so that way the fraternity and sorority community, when they're out there doing this kind of work to end cancer, that they understand the families that are behind the work that they're doing. And I think it just makes it more meaningful, and I think it enables them to get even bigger results than they've ever done before. So I really appreciate you being on the show. And your book, it's called Love Goes Further, really started as a way for you to process something that is unimaginable to a parent like me or any parent in the country, really. Can you take us back to the moment that your life changed forever when Kendall was diagnosed?
Yeah, I sure can. So I'm a mom of four. I have three sons, and Kendall was the only girl. And my middle son was serving in Afghanistan. And so I was wrestling with some fear associated with that, but I could have never imagined what came next. We had just had a great day at the office, and Kendall called and said, "Can you pick me up at work? I can't drive home." And so her dad and I went and we picked her up, and she was having a raging headache and some visual changes that would have prevented her from driving. And we went to the ER, and she was seen, and within about 2 hours, a well-meaning doctor shared that her scan appeared that it appeared there was a mass on her brain, that radiology thought it looked cancerous, and that there are some parts of the brain that are operable, some are not, and this was inoperable. So we knew she was in a really tough spot right from the beginning. The next day she had a surgery. The tumor itself was inoperable, but she had a procedure to relieve cranial fluid that was causing the headaches and the visual impairment. And a biopsy confirmed that she had grade 4 glioblastoma, brain cancer.
Yeah, I am so sorry. My goodness. In the book, you share these five powerful lessons that Kendall lived by. And I think this is something that the students really need to hear. If you had to pick one powerful lesson that Kendall was living by that the college students need to hear the most today, which one would it be and why?
Well, we always say every day is precious, right? We know that. We've heard that. I will tell you, life can change in an instant, and our family lived that. But Kendall had this unyielding ability to find joy on even her most difficult days, and not just find joy, but share joy. So she was forced to leave work, and yet she really expanded her circle to include phlebotomists and treatment nurses and her medical team, and she connected with them in meaningful ways. She learned about their families and asked about their children, and often asked about them before they even had a chance to ask about her. And so I think that it's that power of connection and that ability. We all have tough days, but if we can reach out to someone, maybe someone on campus, a custodian, a TA, a food service worker, and just make a small connection that will brighten their day, you're going to find it's going to brighten your own.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the lessons that I really liked was a meaningful life doesn't end when the
Oh,
life we imagined does. How can today's college students, the ones who are listening right now, how can they apply that when things don't go their way in things like, I don't know, fraternity and sorority recruitment or leadership or relationships with other students, or maybe even their career plans, which is really difficult right now?
and it's so difficult. And we know that journey, right? And we had two college athletes, and you see how for them things can change so dramatically, right? An injury can suddenly end a season or maybe even a career. Um, I was just with a group of medical students last week for match day, and they were looking forward to being matched with universities and surgical field specialties. And not all of them got the match that they wanted, right? Some did, but I think we have to learn to pivot, and we have to learn that truly. Um, I think it's wonderful to have goals. Kendall had meaningful goals. She never stopped challenging herself. But I think there's a moment too where we have to perhaps learn to adapt and say that, okay, the door that was closed, that was my heartfelt desire and my intention, but perhaps the door that I haven't looked at yet might provide even greater meaning in my life.
Yeah, that's a great lesson about adapting. I think that's really important. And I look at the, fraternity and sorority community the same way, that we have to continue to adapt to meet the needs of today's students and do more meaningful work, like some of the ones that I described earlier. Now, Kendall really focused on what she could do, not what she couldn't do. So how do you develop that mindset in a college student when everything feels out of your control right now?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, we like to believe that everything is within our control. And the honest truth is, it isn't. Now, most of us think of gaining abilities, right? How can we gain more competence in our field of study? How can we gain greater proficiency on an athletic court or field? In Kendall's case, she was losing abilities. So her abilities were declining. And I would say, she just, I'm going to use the word challenge again, but she always continued to challenge herself. I remember a specific example. Um, it was in the last year of her life, and she had lost the ability to walk, and she had lost almost all use of her right arm. And I had hurriedly set the table and had put her glass on the right side of her plate instead of our new habit of putting it on the left. And we sit down to eat, and all of a sudden I see Kendall. She's used her left arm to lift her right arm onto the table. And she's just inching that arm forward toward the glass. And we all kind of just sat and smiled. And finally I said, "Would you like Ryan to move that, over so you can get it?" She's like, "Nope, I want to see if I can do it myself." And so I think it's that spirit of, just, things are difficult for all of us sometimes. And if we can just find that small bit of courage to continue to challenge ourselves and then celebrate, whether it's the smallest win, right? If you are apprehensive about speaking and you're in speech class and you're delivering a speech, and maybe it didn't go perfectly. But you know what? Celebrate the fact that you were brave, you got up there, you gave the speech, and now you have that bit of experience that's going to make the next speech even better.
Yeah. Man, she just left so many great lessons in life.
Did
And you're so right too, because I think the college students, they're waiting for some big moment to feel successful. And I see that even in my own kids too. My son graduated from college. He's in a master's program now, but he's still searching for that big job opportunity that he's been waiting for. That my daughter, she's finishing up her sophomore year in college, and she's waiting for that internship this summer in Washington, D.C., that she so covets.
yes,
So they're waiting for these big moments to feel successful. But maybe to your point, Kendall was teaching you about celebrating those small wins instead.
absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, that's really where the book came from,
Mm.
right? I started writing from the context of a mom who was profoundly sad. We had made a mantra in our house, make every day a great day. We didn't know how many days we had, but we were going to make them all count, which I think is a lesson in itself. But I needed a place that I could pour out my sorrow.
Mm.
And so I poured it onto the page. And I never expected anyone would read that other than me. And and yet through Kendall's journey, she taught all these great little life lessons and she connected with people in such meaningful ways. And I used to say that she kind of flung cancer over her shoulder and just kept going in such an undeterred way. And so at about 3 years, I thought, you know what? There are a lot of great lessons here, and I think this might be a book. And I'll tell you, there was a real temptation to write my vulnerability out of the book. I really, thought, okay, maybe I should just take this out, and nobody wants to read about a sad mom. But you know what? Our human experience is one that sometimes we are profoundly sad and we face tough challenges. And I really hope that maybe in seeing my vulnerability, someone else, if they're feeling similarly, might feel like, okay, that's a pretty human way to feel.
Yeah, I'm happy you left that vulnerability in. I think that's really what makes us connect to you. Because you're right. I mean, we're all going through something. It's going to be maybe slightly different, but they're going through their difficulties as well when they're reading the book and they're like, oh, okay, somebody else understands the pain that I'm feeling right now. So I think that's what makes it a great read and a great book. The other thing that I was wondering too, and I think you're a good person to ask, what are some healthy ways that students can support a friend or maybe a family member who's going through something really heavy without feeling overwhelmed themselves?
And that's a great question. And I'm going to say just be present, right? And don't feel like you have to have the perfect words. Don't be reluctant to call because you don't know what to say, or reluctant to knock on the door down the hall because I have no idea what to say. I will tell you, it doesn't matter what you say. People say the right things, sometimes people say the wrong things. But it's their presence that really speaks volumes. So I would say be present, and provide normalcy, right? When someone's going through a tragic experience or they're experiencing grief, it can feel like the whole world is spinning out of control. And so maybe the best thing isn't to try and cheer them up, right? Nobody's goal is to feel cheerful when you're in grief or you're in a difficult circumstance. But maybe just, sitting with someone and playing a video game, sitting with someone and doing something that would be such a normal activity. Doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Just be present.
Yeah. You make a great point about just being present. I lost my dad in December, and he had
Oh,
multiple
I'm
myeloma,
sorry.
cancer of the blood. And
I'm so sorry.
yeah, yeah, and it's still difficult for sure. But I do remember the people who showed up to the funeral, and the people
Mhm.
who called, the people who texted, all of the things. Somebody who I never expected to be at the funeral showed up, and I'm like, what are you doing here? And it wasn't about like, what he said. It was just the
Yep,
fact that he showed up,
yep.
right?
So
So,
true.
yeah, it's unbelievable. You talked a little bit about the vulnerability in the book that you just kind of poured it all out there on the page. How do you think that student leaders can create this culture where people feel safe to open up about really difficult things?
Yeah. And I think that word safe is such an important one. I think if we give people space to share openly or to even be silent when they need to be silent. I know, my three sons and my husband grieve very differently than I do. And so we've had to kind of give each other space, give each other respect. There's nothing I love talking about more than Kendall. And yet for dad and her brothers, that was difficult. And so I had to learn that. I'm still having to learn that. And so I think to provide that space um, is important, but I think community is so important. There's a phrase that I've adopted that's knowing. And so sometimes if you can just direct someone to someone who has shared a similar experience, experienced a similar loss, again, whether we're talking about an academic loss, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, the loss of an athletic pursuit, right? I think someone who understands that, um, I think people can find community in that, and I think that can be really helpful. So to the degree that student leaders could make those connections and create those conduits, I think that could be important.
Yeah. You're so right too. I think everybody does grieve differently. So that's an interesting thing to note. And sometimes it just comes in waves, You have good
Uh,
days, you have bad days, and it's I wish it was predictable. It's not. It's
it's
just not.
absolutely not.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. You can think you're doing really well, and then all of a sudden you get hit with a wave of grief, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah. The other thing too is a lot of the students who are listening right now, they are quietly dealing with family issues back home. So,
Yeah.
what do you wish that more people understood about caregiving and family struggles in general?
Oh, well, I'll tell you the things that we've talked about. If it is a cancer diagnosis of a loved one back home, we learned, and what what we've learned through our own story and through the stories of other brain cancer families that we assist, this diagnosis is not just physical. It's physical, it's emotional, and it's financial. And I will tell you, I can imagine that a student who is far away and separated from their family at home, it can be difficult for them to know how to support the family, how to be present in the way that they might want to otherwise, while they have a big responsibility to focus on their studies and focus on their responsibilities at school. But I'm going to tell you, even just a text, a phone call, a visit home when you can. Um, Again, our son was in Afghanistan when Kendall was diagnosed, and there was no better lifeline for me than a text from Jason. And so it was just a really great encouragement when we heard from him, when we got to hear his voice, and just to have the sense that, hey, we're separated by distance, but we're connected um, in caring for each other and loving one another.
Yeah. Well, thank you for his service, and I'm glad he was able to text you and give you those moments. So those are really nice connection points for sure, I'm sure. And you actually turned this whole experience into the Kendall Nicole Eich Foundation. What impact of this foundation are you most proud of so far?
So I have to tell you, Kendall was a goal setter, and she had a really ambitious travel goal that she set right after her diagnosis, and it was kind of shocking. Her prognosis was, as was described to us in a second opinion, the short end of 1 to 2 years, and yet she had very ambitious goals for her life and she pursued them and had people who supported her in that pursuit. And she left us with a quote saying, "No matter how far we go, our love goes further." And I found that after she died. And it really informs everything that we do through the foundation. So our goal is to advance her love goes further message and to provide initially a measure of financial support to these families. For most of them, their lives have changed as instantly as ours did. And so their heads are reeling and they're trying to determine, can I still work? Can my caregiver still work? How am I going to get to the hospital every day for treatment or radiation? How am I going to who's going to watch the kids? We're going to have all these additional expenses. How are we going to manage the copays? And so our first gift is just to say, hey, we're here, we get it. Money can't solve all your problems, but we want to give you a little assistance to try and take one thing off your plate right now so that you can focus more fully on your physical and emotional well-being. So that's our first gift. Whenever possible, we like to offer a second gift. We saw how a goal changed everything in Kendall's life. And instead of when people came to visit, instead of talking about doctor's appointments and MRIs and treatment and side effects and pain, she talked about where she had been and where she was going next. And it was such a great way um, to provide those positive conversations in the midst of what was a really, really difficult time. And so this wasn't avoidance of those other conversations. We had meaningful conversations about every subject. But it was about her controlling the days between those that cancer stole. And so, we honored the days that she had um, to do all those normal things a cancer treatment or a cancer patient has to do, including rest and recovery and the icky days. But she knew she'd have a few good days a month, and so she pursued them. And so we love when we can help a patient pursue a goal or enjoy a memory making experience.
Mm, that is amazing work that you're doing there at the Kendall Nicole Eich Foundation. And it's interesting too, because my dad did the same thing. He just wanted to travel and see things that, he'd always said I wanted to see, but for whatever reason, work and other things come up, you don't do those things.
Yep.
And yeah, he just quit his job and started traveling. And a
Well,
lot of
good
the
for him.
conversations, yeah, the conversations were about
Yeah.
his travels. He loved to talk about it, and he got to places that nobody gets to, places like Easter Island and
Oh
some
my gosh.
obscure, Madagascar, just obscure places that he
That's
went to go visit, and
fantastic.
he could tell stories and show photos. And then he was always thinking about the next place he was going to. And so that gave him hope, right? It's like,
It
I got to make it
does.
to the next one.
Exactly. And when you're a cancer patient, your calendar is absolutely filled
Right.
with appointments and tests and treatment and so it's lovely to be able to put something on the calendar that is your own and you can plan it, anticipate it, enjoy it, and talk about the memories that you made.
Yeah, really good stuff. So, all right, for all of our listeners now that are really motivated and they want to get involved in supporting families who are facing brain cancer, this could be the Kendall Nicole Eich Foundation or anything else you recommend. How can they get involved?
So we have a great way to help them get involved, and we would absolutely love if they would participate in Kendall's challenge. During the month of May, we register people. It's Brain Cancer Awareness Month, and so we want to create awareness of brain cancer, create awareness of our foundation, and we register people for our 42-day walking, running, cycling challenge that happens between June 1st and July 12th. And many brain cancer patients start with an arduous 42 days of chemo and radiation. And as a nod to their strength and to increase our own, we connect people across the country and around the world in Kendall's challenge, spreading her message of love. And so we would love if you have students in any part of the country, or even those who are maybe going to be um, participating in study abroad overseas. We're connected via an app. Anyone, anywhere of any fitness level can participate. We go at our own pace. Our first year, we challenged our participants to walk or run or cycle collectively the distance between Chicago and the South Pole. And it was a fun venture. Um, we all participated in a way, and we achieved that goal. So we're waiting to see how many participants we have this year, and then we'll set an ambitious goal for this year too. But we would absolutely love if your students could add a location to our Love Goes Further map. We have participants that have committed in about 30 states, and so we would love to have your students involved.
That sounds good. What's the website to go and add to that map?
So they can go to lovegoesfurther.org. Our registration is not up yet, but I am going to make sure that we have our registration up within the next week or so. But if they would like, they can send an email to info@lovegoesfurther.org, or they can just click on the form and say, hey, I want to be involved, and we'll send them a reminder when registration opens.
All right, students all across the country, it's lovegoesfurther.org. Make sure that you are on there and registered. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So you're going to have people now from all over the country that are going to want to
I
jump
love
in
it.
this. All right.
Absolutely love it.
All right, good. Well, this has been fantastic. So, Cindy, I know that this can be really difficult, but I'm really glad that you're sharing Kendall's story and that we can keep her memory alive through the foundation and through telling these stories. I think it's great, and so thank you for sharing this with us today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much, and good luck, everyone. Keep doing great things.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, if you learned something today from Cindy Eich, I want you to share this episode with your chapter. Drop a link in a group chat, share it on social media. You really never know who in your chapter or your friends or family really needs to hear this message from Cindy today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.